What is up, everybody? It is your boy. You know who it is. Very rarely do we get a level of entertainment in the offseason like we're seeing right now. I always say no news is good news because typically if you're reading about your team in the headlines in the middle of May, it's usually for something that's not good. You know, a player getting in trouble, suspended, some sort of university violation, NCAA investigation, as pointless as those are and as useless as those are. But unless you've been living under a rock for the past 24 hours, there is not even just a back and forth between Saban and Jimbo Fisher, but there's other coaches included too. Let's unpack this a little bit. First of all, there are very few coaches, if any, other than Nick Saban, that can get away with this kind of thing. There's been a lot of coaches over the past, 12 to 24, the past couple of years, ever since NIL has become a big discussion, and then, of course, ever since it's been implemented last season, that have come out and expressed concerns for the possible repercussions of a lawless NIL situation, which is really what it is right now. The rules are very sketchy. There really aren't any rules. I mean, not as far as the NCAA is concerned. I mean, there's state rules and federal laws and all kinds of stuff like that. But anyway, we all know where this is headed and we all knew it before it started where it was headed. A bunch of coaches, including Coach Sweeney, have come out and said the same thing that Nick Saban's been saying, that this current model with the NIL is unsustainable and, to a lesser degree, unfair to certain schools. Because the argument was that this levels the playing field originally. So it wouldn't just be the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Georgias, the Southern Cals, whatever blue chip programs you want to mention, that are able to gobble up all the recruits, because places like Jackson State, where our boy Deon Sanders is head coach, can get in and get the number one recruit in the country, whereas normally that player would have gone, again, to one of these other schools and not Jackson State. But anyway, I don't know what the thing was. I saw some video clips of what Saban said. I guess it was yesterday. It looked to me like some sort of a press event. I don't know if it was like on a podcast. I don't know what it was. He was sitting on the stage with two other guys and he was answering questions. Okay, that's all I know. But Nick Saban doesn't just do what Dabo Swinney does and say, well, let's just talk about what Dabo Swinney did say. Mainly, he said originally he did not want to professionalize college sports. He wanted it to stay about education and not about money. And that after we went through an entire season last year of the first year of the NIL, he then came out and said, he didn't just come out and say, that's the other thing. He's answering questions. Okay, Dabo Swinney is not calling press conferences to yell about NIL problems. He's answering questions from the media. That's all. But anyway, he did say that there are a lot of teams out there that are sort of skating the line and tampering at the expense of the kid. I think that was the statement that he made, that Lane Kiffin sent Dabo Swinney a text message saying, good job. I agree with you 100%. I mean, many people wouldn't think that Lane Kiffin and Dabo Swinney share similar views on coaching and on college football in general, but they do. Same with Nick Saban, a bunch of other guys. But Nick Saban is the first one, the only one that I know, since this has all started, to actually name universities and other head coaches by name. He said in that thing yesterday, Jimbo Fisher bought his entire recruiting class last season. Maybe not Jimbo Fisher bought, but the Texas A&M bought, i.e. the boosters and whatever, bullshit companies they set up for these ridiculous NIL deals. Then he went on to say the same thing about Deon Sanders getting that number one recruit in the country. So now, not only is he just being general about the situation across the country, he's naming coaches by name and universities by name. Anytime that you do that, you can expect some sort of backlash from the guys that he's mentioning. I mean, that goes without saying. I'm pretty sure if somebody went out there, with the stature of Nick Saban and called him a cheater, he would respond in kind as well. I haven't heard anything from Deon Sanders yet. He did go to Twitter and said, I'm going to talk tomorrow, which is today, about the lies that Nick Saban told about me or in this football program. That ought to be good because Deon Sanders does not. First of all, Deon Sanders has FU money anyway, right? He doesn't need to be the coach at Jackson State. I mean, the guy's set, and he doesn't have anything to lose by going toe-to-toe with Mr. Saban there. Jimbo Fisher, on the other hand, this is something that's been going on for a while, I think. I believe that he's been accused by Saban of quote-unquote cheating in the past, and that didn't go over too well with Jimbo. And now he's gone off the rails. Not only is he saying what Nick Saban's saying is false, he's gone on the counteroffensive. And basically, no, not basically, he is, in so many words, calling Nick Saban a cheater and a liar. And saying that Nick Saban has been cheating and lying his entire career. He even went so far as to say, some people think that they're a god when he's referring to Nick Saban and Alabama's football program. And he said, if you knew the deals that God had to make to be God, I'm paraphrasing here, but somebody can look up the quote. If you knew the deals that God had to make in order to become God, you'd be surprised at what you find. Insinuating that Saban has cheated his way to the top and Alabama to the top over the past, whatever it is, 13 or 14, however long he's been at Alabama, since 2008 or 7 or whatever it was. It's interesting. He's mad. Jimbo Fisher's big mad. Oh, here's another part of the story. So I guess in order, like, to do damage control, Saban knew what he said on that stage yesterday was going to get a negative reaction from Jimbo Fisher and most likely Deon Sanders. So he picks up the phone and calls Jimbo Fisher or Jimbo Fisher's office or whatever it is. Jimbo Fisher says, I refuse to take the call. I'm done with him. You all see what kind of person he is now. He's exposed himself, blah, blah, blah. So Jimbo Fisher is basically saying, I'm not having this back and forth with Coach Saban anymore. We're done. There's no love lost there. Whatever friendship there used to be, there is no longer. And he then goes on to defend himself and his program, saying he's never cheated or lied in his entire career. Now, I am not a big fan of Jimbo Fisher by any stretch. And I do believe that Jimbo Fisher, along with most other coaches in some way, shape, or form, have bent the rules in their favor, especially in recruiting. Recruiting is a nasty, nasty practice, man. You can skate that line of being inappropriate recruiting, but not really cross it. And I think pretty much every coach does that. Negative recruiting. I mean, there's a lot of different things. Lying is the number one thing, right? I mean, if you are recruiting against Alabama for a certain player, you're pretty inclined to lie and say something that might not be true or that you don't know in order to get that player. Something like, Nick Saban's going to be gone in 2 years anyway, man. Now, that might be true, but you don't know that. You're lying to the kid, telling him that, because he might be there for another 7 years. You don't know. So that kind of thing happens all the time. But this won't be the end of it. And like I said at the beginning of the video, Nick Saban is really the only guy that I could think of that could get away with this kind of thing. Because he's like, in the world of cancel culture that we live in today, we talk about certain people that are uncancelable. Is that a word? Uncancelable. Yes. Like in the comedy world, Dave Chappelle, uncancelable. Right? Nick Saban in the college football world, uncancelable. Just is. I mean, you will not see a young up-and-coming head coach burn bridges the way that Nick Saban's doing right now. Why? Because they might need that guy's help that they want to burn that bridge with in the future to elevate their career at some point. Nick Saban doesn't have that problem, Jack. Like I said, there's a very few amount of coaches. Dabo Swinney could probably do the same thing and kind of has on a certain level, but he just gets called a crybaby for it. You know, Nick Saban doesn't get that same treatment, but it is what it is. But Saban's really the only guy that can get away with it without any real repercussions other than other coaches not liking him, which I honestly think Nick Saban could give two shits who likes him and who dislikes him. And I like Coach Saban too. I think he's a little bit off base with this one here just by naming names and things like that. I mean, let's see the proof. That's the problem I have with this kind of rhetoric coming from Saban. I'm not even saying he's wrong. He's probably right. But if you're going to make accusations like that, prove it. Don't just say they're cheating and they bought all their players. Prove it. And if you can prove it, I don't really have a problem with you saying it. But just coming out and saying it is not really a good look in my opinion. But nothing is better than when Jimbo Fisher gets mad with his fast car salesman talk, that he does. Nothing is better than Jimbo Fisher getting mad and talking shit about Nick Saban or anybody else for that matter. It's great. It's great. All right, guys, give me your comments below. How do you feel about the situation? Was Coach Saban out of pocket in this one? Is Jimbo Fisher the one that looks bad in this whole thing? Give me your thoughts on the Deon Sanders deal. I can't wait to see Deon Sanders' response. It might even be better than Jimbo Fisher's. We'll see. All right, guys. See y'all soon. Happy Thursday. Your boy checking out.